you a guy who, according to my research, I believe is the first man of African American descent elected to office in the South after the passage of the Voting Rights Act. I just like the way he looks. Some of you vote. Your parents certainly vote. Your teachers vote. I vote. If you're not voting now, you will in a year or two. And you vote for those who represent your views. And that's exactly as it should be in our democracy. Blacks had mainly been stymied from doing this. They could vote now. John Lewis, he was beat up on Bloody Sunday. He was voted in as a congressman. He's a congressman today. Blacks began to be voted into high office as congressmen, senators, governors, school board superintendents, sheriffs. Other minority groups were inspired by this. Oh yeah. Hispanics, up until recently. Bill Richardson was a highly respected governor of New Mexico. Women said, we want people in office, Asian Americans. Now, I know he's controversial. You may like him or dislike him, and that's not my point at all. Like or dislike him, and later on, you have a First Amendment right to state your view, but not now, because I'm speaking. But because people were courageous 47 years ago, we now have what I assure you no one could have imagined possible when I was a kid. The first African American president of the United States. Now, I want to show you a guy who, he can be tedious, but I love him. Let's see if our sound works. If it doesn't, let's sort of hop on this and figure it out. And not a sound comes out. Oh, well, we know that doesn't work. Wait, let me try. Hold on, maybe turning the sound on my computer will help. Okay, there, start it again. Hold on.
When you were a kid, was civil rights an issue or a concept you were familiar with or that was spoken of much?
Well, it depends on what age I was a kid, but certainly when I was in high school it was an important issue. And we knew that blacks weren't voting, they were segregated in the South, and in the North I recall picket lines around restaurants in New York because they wouldn't serve blacks.
How old were you when you were actually working as a lawyer in the civil rights movement?
I got to work there in 1949 and I was 24 years old.
And what is your job now?
I'm a professor of law at Columbia Law School.
People always ask, is he alive? Yes, he's alive. I had dinner with him a couple of nights ago, which is a good sign. And now he directs his efforts not to American civil rights issues, but to dealing with issues of what we often refer to as gypsies, but the real word is the Roma in Europe, who, for the most part, live in a situation as bad as or worse than blacks in the Jim Crow South. And they're coming out with a movie about my dad. I hope you'll all go see it and thereby enrich the Greenberg family. And he's going to be played by Tobey Maguire, who also played Spider-Man. So in a manner of speaking, Spider-Man will be my father, which means I get the powers. So you're used to seeing pictures of Martin Luther King in these inspiring poses, you know, I have a dream, etc. What you may not know is he spent a lot of his time in jail because he'd go to these demonstrations and he'd be hauled away. And actually a lot of my dad's work had to do with getting him out of jail. Let me show you a double picture of King taken in the Birmingham, Alabama jail with his words there that I think are really vitally important to all of us, vitally. We will have to repent in this generation not merely for the hateful words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. You might think I'm speaking about issues of civil rights, blacks and whites, modern American history. No, not really as I see it. I really believe I'm speaking of issues of human rights that span the globe and that go back historically and that will extend forevermore into the future. Let me show you another guy, a white guy. He was a minister in a church in Germany in the 30s, and he ended up in a Nazi concentration camp. His words are different, but I believe his message is exactly the same and vital to us. I don't use that word idly. Vital to us. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak.